fornication is bad, if he calls that sinful, there's a reason. It produces death. You may not see that right away. You might have to think about it a little deeper than you may have before. But if you are fornicating or having sex outside of marriage, you're taking a good gift of God, this thing called marriage, this thing called sex, and you're ruining it. You're making something good, and you're turning it into something bad. God abhors that because it's going to produce death. Now, you may not see that. You might say, who am I hurting? I'm not hurting anybody. Well, you'll know them by their fruits. Jesus told us that's how you judge all things. You judge them by their fruits. So if you look at the fruits of fornication past tonight, okay, or past last night, or whatever, and you think about what does that produce, it produces death. If you have a lifestyle of fornication and then eventually you meet the one, well, where does that lead? It's leading to rampant divorce. Our society once was fairly godly. At one time in not too distant past, our society sort of honored things of God. Even if people weren't actually Christians, they still believed godly principles, they still respected them, and so we ended how they married. What? How long ago are we talking about? Well, you can work your way back. Each successive generation's got mad, but if you go back, to the 40s to 50s, we're looking at a different story.
You're still addressing, like, the white where it's still, like,
I didn't say that it was perfect. I just think that we look at marriage in a godly way. I'm using that as an example. Okay? But the wages of what you're talking about, what was the wages of oppressing people in slavery? It was death. Right. So the whole point is sin is bad. You can fill in the blanks with whatever sin you want to talk about. You can fill it in with masturbation, since our fan of masturbation has returned. But sex is good if we do it God's way. It becomes a curse if we do it any other way. And so you may not follow that, but if you think about it, fornication leads to divorce, which leads to broken marriages, which leads to broken families, which leads to broken children, which leads to broken societies, which is what we've got. We've got a society that now people get married 2-3 times and they just stay married eventually because it's too expensive to get divorced. But then they sort of go do their own thing anyway, and the kids are just decimated. So the wages of sin is death. Now wait, Mommy and Daddy were the ones that sinned. How come it's coming out on little Johnny? Well, God never said it was fair. He just said don't do it. Do the good things and don't do the bad things. Abhor that which is evil and cleave to that which is good. So if you can follow that, God, because He loves us, has some standards. He has some laws, and He wants us to follow them. He wants us to do good things and not do bad things, because they have consequences. There are consequences to all our decisions. Sin is a decision, as was mentioned earlier, and there are consequences for our decisions. If we choose to follow God, to obey God, well, that's a blessing. If we choose to do anything else, whether you like it or not, it is a curse. So to disobey God is a curse. It brings death. So we talked about fornication for a minute. On this campus, there's a reputation that there's a lot of